I am Tony Parker from the San Antonio Spurs.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers.
I'm Nick Young. You tune in to Kicks on Court.
Hey again, everyone, and welcome back to Kicks on Court Weekly Recap. I'm your host, George Kill. Glad you tuned in. So on the eve of the Final Four, we get a year-end review from our college Kicks on Court editor. We'll have that ahead. Plus, in an interesting segment, we talk sneaker collecting with the lone Armed Forces veteran in the NBA today. But first, let's check out the amazing Kicks on Court happenings on the West Coast. Jody Meeks brought out the Nike Air Tech Challenge Huarache. PJ Tucker debuted the Wolf Gray and Court Purple Nike Kobe 9 Elite, while DeMarcus Cousins revisited his black toe Air Jordan 14. Jose Pereira laced up yet another Nike KD6 ID. Timothy Mozgov took it back to the ice blue Nike KD 5. Derek Williams went back to 2006 in his Nike LeBron 4. Eric Bledsoe went back even further with a wear of his Nike Zoom LeBron 3. And Kendall Marshall wore a blue Air Jordan 28 SEPE on World Autism Awareness Day. Andre Iguodala sported the Inspiration Kobe 9 Elite. Devin Harris opted for all white on his My Adidas D-Rose 4. Courtney Lee laced up a green and white Nike LeBron 11 ID. Ken Bazemore matched the Lakers color scheme with the purple Voodoo Anatomic Spawn, while Shabazz Muhammad hit the court in the Adidas No Mercy. Last but definitely not least, Nick Young had the most impressive week by debuting the two Kobe 9 lows, one in gradient form and the wheat edition of the Nike Air Zoom generation. Now Swaggy P is not stopping there, as he mentioned that he will be wearing the newly released Supreme Foamposites on court against the Mavericks tonight, so you'll definitely want to stay tuned for that. Last Friday, we discussed memorable college Kicks on Court moments of the past and present with a few pros and our college Kicks on Court editor, Jordan Hauenstein. This week, Jordan gives us a year-end review of the college Kicks on Court season. What do you have for us, Jordan?
Thanks, George. What's up, everybody? I'm Jordan Hauenstein, the college Kicks on Court editor here at Nice Kicks, bringing you a full season recap of the year in college Kicks on Court. Since the Final Four is this weekend, we thought we'd take a look back at the year in review, but since there's 365 teams, it's tough to do that in one segment. So we're gonna get right down to it and do the top 10 shoes that we're seeing this year on the college basketball landscape that have not been seen on NBA Kicks on Court. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Kicking the college exclusives off with a roar. San Diego State's Skylar Spencer wore the premium Tiger Hyperflights with their red and black jerseys that would never be allowed in the NBA with the dress code. Cameron Wright comes in at number 8 with the LeBron 8 Yankee edition that LeBron didn't even get to wear since he was with the Miami Heat. Maurice Walker from Minnesota wore the burgundy 5s that perfectly went with their jerseys, but could not be seen in the NBA as well. In the number 7 slot is Louisville's Montrezl Harrell, who wore an all-red Crazy 1 similar to Damian Lillard's but without the graphics. Unfortunately, Spencer Dinwiddie got hurt early in the season, but before he broke out the Bruce Lee Kobe 5s with their Colorado jerseys. Kicking off the top 5 is a tribute to H-Town. Pittsburgh's Lamar Patterson whipped out the LeBron 3 Houston Oilers that is rarely seen and wore them multiple times throughout the season. Number 4 is Jerry Evans Jr. and Deontay Burton, Nevada's two seniors who both wore the What the Kobe 8s for their special day. Lamar Patterson is back at number 3 with the most colorful sneakers seen this year. He whipped out the Fruity Pebbles LeBron 4 in a road game against North Carolina. The number 2 slot might be the most surprising sneaker sighting of the year when Chris Crawford broke out the Shooting Star Nike Foamposite 1 PE that he got directly from fellow Memphis alum Penny Hardaway. The other 9 slots were all impressive, but number 1 goes to UNLV's Kevin Olakabi. Although customs are frequently seen on the NBA hardwood, he took it to another level with his own silhouette painted onto the Jumpman on the heels and LED lights inside the air units. He literally lit up the court. Now you have some of the highlights, so tune into the Final Four this weekend and check back next week as we wrap up the 2014 year in college Kicks on Court. I'm Jordan Hauenstein, throwing it back to you, George.
Well, Nick Young was the obvious standout on the West Coast, but let's now check out the Kicks on Court highlights on the East. LeBron James donned a new Nike Zoom LeBron Soldier 7 PE. Kyrie Irving returned from injury in a new Hyper Rev, while DeMar DeRozan wore both the Black Cement Air Jordan 3 and the Black Cat Air Jordan 4 in the same game. Donald Sloan kicked it in the Bruce Lee Kobe 9 Low. Tobias Harris opted for the high top version of the Detail Elites, while Paul Pierce rocked a new Nike Air Legacy 3. Terrence Ross wore the White Cement Air Jordan 3. Deron Williams laced up a blue Zoom Crusader, also benefiting autism awareness, and John Wall debuted the Adidas Crazy Quick 2. Iman Shumpert gave us an Adidas debut as well in the form of the Crazy 8 2. Martell Webster unveiled a Shedding Skin Kobe 8 ID, and big man Andre Drummond took to the court in the Olympic Air Jordan 6. The NBA is full of sneaker enthusiasts from all walks of life, but none as unique as Dallas Mavericks forward Bernard James. The former Florida State Seminole and Air Force Staff Sergeant is the only player in the NBA to have served in the military, and because of that, he knows the hottest sneaker shopping areas around the world. We recently caught up with James to discuss those regions and the art of collecting in the States versus overseas.
It depends, man. I think Air Force, Army, Marines, you don't really get to a lot of the good places. The Navy, though, their ships, just like the nature of their branch, they go to port in a lot of good cities. So they'll end up in places like Tokyo and stuff like that, where they can probably get really cool stuff out there that we don't have back here in the States. Places in South America, it's all kind of, Nike does all kind of exclusive releases for like Europe and Japan and stuff like that. So they actually have access to places like that. Unless you're stationed over there in one of the other branches, Army, Air Force, or Marines, then probably ain't gonna really be able to get to it like that. So I'd have to say here for most of us, but for the Navy, it's probably easier abroad.
You mentioned Tokyo. What are some other hot spots that you would say are good to get shoes at?
England's probably another one. I know they're really big in the basketball and just like the whole like hip hop community type deal over there. Probably Beijing. Probably do some in China too. Probably Australia as well. You can find some maybe in Sydney. Those are probably it, man. Just like the really big cities, throughout the world. The internet is your friend, man. If you can't like travel, my job, we travel a lot, so I get access to a lot of different markets. But if you're not traveling all the time, man, the internet's probably your best friend. Twitter, Instagram too. You can find people that do customs or have access to shoes in China and stuff like that'll be willing to ship them to you. So networking.
James also discussed personal favorites and details of his own collection.
I'm kind of into everything, man. It's like if I like it, I like it. So I might ID something that I like in a certain colorway, or I might find a pair of like rare ones online or something, or I might have a custom pair made. So it just kind of depends, man. If I see something I like, I usually go after it and try to get it. Like the guy I get my customs from, he's actually based out in Sydney, so he's Australian. Sometimes I'll have him shipped in from somewhere else if I can get a hold of them or get somebody to ship them to me. But I guess over the last like 2 years, I've definitely increased my collection a lot.
Well, we've seen what the pros wore this week, but let's now check out my Fave 5 of your kicks on court. Jono Fam 3 wore the Florida City Adidas Crazy 1. Kyle Ragland and his squad laced up some nice Adidas Hoops retros, while E. Wang on Graham and his team laced up various Kobe's. We spotted Matt Schoen 22 in the black and red Air Jordan 4, and coming in at number 1 is size 11 in the 5 rings edition of the Kobe 5. Well, that brings the first episode of April to a close. As always, thank you guys for tuning in each and every Friday for your Kicks on Court coverage here. Also, be on the lookout tonight for Nick Young and the Supreme Foamposites, and also the Final Four Kicks on Court coverage this weekend. I'm your host, George Keel, and before we close, check out our Heat's highlight of the week. Iman Shumpert and his Adidas Crazy 8-2 do an impressive behind-the-back move on Teletovic. Check it out.
I think Mike Woodson is correct. I love their size and length and depth.
Shumpert drives on Teletovic behind the back, and he banks it in. Oh, beautiful play that gets the crowd on its feet, and the Knicks lead is back to 15.